everyone, Ryan Schroeder here with VSM Real Estate. Today we're going to talk about the simplest of all the investment analysis tools that you can use out there. It's called the 1% rule. In essence, you're looking at the relationship between what is the purchase price of this property as compared to what it will rent for. And if the monthly rent price is approximately equal to or greater than 1% of the purchase price of the property, you've probably found yourself a good investment. Now, there is some latitude with that. It's not always that simple. If you have a townhouse, for example, where there's an association fee, it might kind of skew your numbers a little bit. But I'm going to run you through a scenario of what I consider to be the basics of the 1% rule, and we'll talk about some of the nuances and exceptions to it. So again, I'm going to explain it one more time. So the 1% rule is monthly rent is greater than or equal to 1% of the purchase price. So in this case, if you have a property that has a monthly rent of $1,500 per month and you're picking it up for $150,000, you've got a perfect 1% rule right there. Now, if the same property for $150,000 rents for only $1,000 a month, under most normal circumstances, this thing isn't going to cover the debt service on it. It's not going to be positive cash flow. It is a deal that you would likely want to pass on. Now, in today's economy, it's very difficult to find things that are even at, let alone above a 1% rule. But say, for example, you're looking and you find a duplex that has 2 units, each rented for $1,500 a month. You're bringing in $3,000 a month in rent, and you can pick this thing up for $250,000. That's a pretty clear deal. So I'll just use that as an example. $3,000 a month. You can pick it up for $250,000. Well over the 1% rule, something you should definitely look at scooping up. Now, this is assuming, by the way, when we talk about purchase price, we're talking about the all-in number. So if you're picking something up for $250,000, but it needs $100,000 worth of work, that's going to really be a true cost of $350,000, and it'll be a little bit off of that ratio. So we're going to talk about a couple of exceptions to this rule. Again, this is not exactly a rule or the world's best way of analyzing deals, but one of the exceptions that I like to look at is when you talk about a townhome. So in a townhome or condo, there's always an association fee. If your association fee is $300 a month, that's an expense that might not be considered on a single family residence or a duplex or something like that. But those things are very valuable to the longevity of your property because they take care of the exterior of the home and the structure oftentimes, and then also the lawn and snow care. So if you're a little bit below the 1% rule because of you're in an association, you might want to give that a little bit of latitude. Another thing to consider when you're talking about the 1% rule is when you would be willing to make an exception. So I'm more willing to make an exception in the event that we're buying a property for $200,000 that has market value of $250,000, then I'm getting the $50,000 in equity. It might behoove me then to not worry so much about the rental ratio being exactly how you need it to be. Another example is if a property is in a really great area with really high appreciation potential. For example, here in the Twin Cities on Grand Avenue in St. Paul or in Uptown or some of those areas, it's going to be very difficult to hit the 1% rule, but those areas have been historically in such high demand that you might be willing to make a little bit more of an exception. And then there's an exception on the other end of the spectrum as well. So if you're going to be buying in an area that is historically very difficult to find quality tenants and maintain them, you might want to be looking for something higher than a 1% rent to purchase price ratio. And if these are the types of things that excite you and that you want to learn, VSM Real Estate is the place for you to be. We are the Twin Cities real estate investment specialists, and we'd love to teach you more about what we do, what makes us different, and see if this is a great place for you to be. Thank you.